Hello, flower friends. It is your friend in flowers, Lisa Mason Ziegler. And is anybody else still bringing in sunflowers from the garden? I am. And look at these beauties, y'all. These are from the Pro Cut series that we love and grow so much of. And how many of these do you think you could sell at this time of the year? I'm telling you, endless. I mean, white light, white night, some of the oranges. Look at the bicolors. There's lemon, y'all. Plum, my very favorite. This is the Sunflower Pro Cut series, which you can find the seeds in my shops. But if you want to learn how to grow flowers like I grow them, friends, I have an opportunity that I am just going to tell you out of the gate, and I'll mention it again a little later. Flower Farming School Online, which is my flagship class. It's the basics, annual crops, marketing, and more, is on special until midnight tonight. It is $200 off. It's normally $695, on sale for $495 plus a bonus training of my succession plan and how you can actually do it. And you know, this is a course that covers everything you need to start your flower farming business and then to help you grow over the next several years. Grow in annuals, y'all. Low investment, high return. Stellar annuals. If you want to grow cut flowers like I do, then that's the place that you start, right? And I say that because people are always asking, how do you do it? Well, I have so many resources that share with you how I do it. But if you want to become a flower farmer, that is the roadmap. And I know $500 is a lot of money, but that is a BB in the Astrodome to what it's going to save you in mistakes that you're going to avoid. And if you just apply one good principle from the course, you will tenfold that money, right? So friends, this is Ask a Flower Farmer, and my name is Lisa Mason Ziegler, if we've never met before. And I am the owner, head bottle washer here at thegardenersworkshop.com. Started as a little city flower farm back in 1998, 27 years ago. And, you know, growing a lot of flowers in a small space in the middle of the city. And kind of discovered my greatest passion, and that is teaching other people how they can do it also. And I do that through books, courses, tons of resources over at thegardenersworkshop.com. And you can get to my course. You have until midnight tonight over at thegardenersworkshop.com. It's at the top of every page. Go over there, read the student reviews, read all the stuff that you get. You have lifetime unlimited access, and that will set you up. So, Ask a Flower Farmer is where I will do my best to answer your questions. If you're in TikTok, there's a bubble down at the bottom of your screen where you can actually post your questions so I don't lose them in the comments scrolling. If you have questions about seed starting, cool flowers, harvesting flowers, flower farming business, flower farming dogs, whatever you got, bring it on and I'll do my best for you to answer them. And in TikTok, just put the question in the comments, and I will scroll through those in just a couple moments and we'll get started answering some questions. So flower farming school is what I wished I'd had when I started flower farming back in 1998. Y'all, this is going to just show you what a dinosaur I am. When I started flower farming in 98, we barely had the internet. I mean, most homes did not even have home computers yet, right? And so I would just love to have you join with us, and you can comment basics over an Instagram, but if you're on TikTok, just head over to thegardenersworkshop.com. And you can also pre-order your big calendar while you're over there, which will guide you to the 9 planting windows, just like I do, for your garden, so you can figure out based on my equation that's in there. So you can actually check that out. So I don't know what kind of weather you guys are having. I'm in southeastern Virginia, and I'm like right between Williamsburg, Virginia, and Virginia Beach. A lot of people know where those two places are, huge tourist places, right? I'm kind of like 30 minutes in between the both of those. And our weather here this year for cool flowers is absolutely spectacular. And so if you have a cool flower question or a struggle, or you just can't figure something out, post it in the comments on TikTok and on your Instagram. Post it in the bubble with the question mark. The only dumb question there is the one you don't ask because you're afraid to ask it. And so we're having the best fall season we have had in several years here. And that is because the weather is behaving like fall, y'all. It's cool outside during the day instead of us fighting 90-degree weather, which is what we've been up against the past few years. And when that happens, I have to take steps to cool my transplants down with sun caps, which is basically a type of shade structure that I make and put up. But this year, it's been kind of dreamy. It's rained intermittently and kind of deep, slow, like a day-long rain. And our direct seeded beds are pretty phenomenal. And I can't wait this weekend. I'm going to do a lot of cultivating in our direct seeded beds and get up with them and see how everybody is doing out there. But the last I checked, we had excellent germination. I mean, when I'm looking at the direct seeded beds, y'all have been doing it, now almost for 30 years, and I'm already thinking, oh my gosh, are they going to sprout? I totally get it when people don't have success. Direct seeding, so much can happen to seeds outdoors that's kind of out of your control that it makes us worry. I'm always thrilled when I see, the other day when I was out there kind of like stalking them, to see dill and bupleurum is another one that is kind of always kind of iffy for me. But of course, the bachelor buttons and the saponaria and bells of Ireland were rocking out there. Last year we had a terrible bells year. And I know it was because it was too warm. Cool season hardy annuals love cool weather. All right, y'all, where are you with these questions? Usually I have a bunch of questions. So post your questions if you're on Instagram down in the bubble below about anything to do with growing cut flowers. Anything. I'll do my best to actually answer it. And let's go in here and see what the first one is, and maybe that'll... Oh, hey, Brittany. Which cold hardy annuals do you like to grow in large containers, and where would you place them over winter? How many hours of direct sun do they need while they wait? So that's a great question, Brittany, and kind of funny because guess what I did this past Saturday? Today is what? Wednesday. This past Saturday. So, for those of you that maybe, if you're not in my club, you probably don't know about this. But one of the big challenges that I've been facing the last 4 years here on my farm is to really downsize my growing operation even more to fit my business model that we have now, which is pretty much education, right? For videoing and imaging for books and filming and that kind of stuff. And so I've tried, and I've been successful this year. I have actually only planted what we planned on me planting. And what that led to was I had a lot of great leftover transplants. Like probably 40 to 50 good looking transplants for like 50 crops, right? And so this past Saturday, I spent the day, I keep about 6 to 8 large. When I say large, imagine, the whiskey barrels that you see, the half whiskey barrels. People used, back in the day, you used to get real whiskey barrels. They were wooden. Of course, they rot ultimately. But about that size, all of my containers are in that category. 18 inches or wider and as deep. Whenever you're planting containers, particularly if you're talking about planting cool season hardy annuals, you need large containers. Because if it's a small container, think about how quick that mass would just freeze solid, right? If you freeze like we do here. So the larger the mass of soil, the more like a bed you're kind of mimicking a bed out in your garden. So all of my containers are large. I'm just prefacing this with that. And so the point is that if you're only growing cool season hardy annuals that are winter hardy in your zone, you should plant the containers if they're safe containers to stay outdoors all year. I think I have this right. So if you have ceramic pots and they're glazed on the inside just like they are on the outside, that means that they're not prone to freeze because the water does not, it's not porous inside. The water does not get absorbed into the actual pot. But you should check that out for yourself before you leave a pot outside. But the point is to plant the container outdoors where it's going to always be. And then I use either, like this time of the year, I have insect netting on it to keep the squirrels out from digging it up. And then if I needed to, if we're getting some deep dive temperatures, I can just put like a row cover sleeve on top of that too, right? But my containers are right where they're going to be when they start growing and blooming. There is something flying around this building. I would guess it's a stink bug. It looks pretty big, whatever it is. So if I duck y'all, you know he's coming for me. So mine are planted right out there. They get probably from 8 a.m. till 4 or 5 in the afternoon. So it's basically full blasting sun is the situation. And the only time I would drag any of those containers into this building, I do bring... There's one container out there that has my mother plant in it of Salvia leucanthia, which we actually take cuttings from to make more plants because they aren't always winter hardy here. And we love growing that as a beautiful hedge because the bumble, it's a late summer bloomer. It gets a purple, I just had some here. It gets a purple bloom about this long and it lasts weeks and weeks and weeks in the garden. Bumblebees love it. Anyway, I do drag that container and it just sits over here in the corner, right? So if you're going to plant cool flowers, and I plant them all in there, you know, you can plant any plant that grows out in your garden in a container. What that number one means is it's just going to be smaller. May not grow as tall. You know, I grew, when we were filming for Vegetables Love Flowers, one of my books, I planted those containers that are out there on my patio, on the porch, with all the different grasses that we needed to have available to film or take pictures of for the book. So instead of putting them out in the garden, I thought, let's also plant containers. And I will tell you that all of them got full height and did just fabulously. But again, I'm just going to tell you again, Brittany, big containers is the secret. They get hotter slower when it's hot outside. They get colder slower when it's cold outside. They hold moisture longer. They're just better, and the roots have more room. So invest your money in large containers. Fill them with quality potting soil. And there's a lot of great recipes out there. You know, the best book that I ever read about container gardening was by Jessica Walliser. And it's in my house. It's Jessica Walliser, Walliser, and put container. Search that. That is the best container book I have ever read. And I actually followed so many of her tips. Like, for instance, you know how baskets, the big wide, again, my basket is about this big. It weighs so much when it's full. And you put cocoa fiber and how they dry out so fast. She tells you to line them with a trash bag and then poke a lot of holes in the bottom. I mean, I only had to water once a week last year. It's amazing. Anyway, get that container book if you want to do containers. And any flower that I grow out in my field, I would say you can grow in large containers. just expect potentially that they'll be smaller, not as tall, maybe not as bushy. So I just planted out here Rudbeckias, Carthamus, Calendula, Salvia, Snapdragons, Feverfew, and I can't remember what else. But yeah, and I space them 6 inches apart, just like they're out in the garden, and just see what happens. So good luck with that. I hope that that helps you. But check out Jessica's book. All right, I'm looking over here in TikTok. I thought I saw a question. Here we go. Can mums handle direct sun, or do they need to be in the shade? So mums, which I don't grow a lot of mums. I did grow heirloom mums one year as cut flowers, and they're full sun. And it, you know, if you're talking about wintering them over outdoors, I think they're winter hardy where I am, and I am in the USDA Zone 8A now. But yes, they typically bloom so much better in full sun. And mums, the blooms really last a long time. So I'm just looking over here for questions. Oop. Telling you, you just touched the wrong thing for a second, y'all, and no telling where you're going to go. Over here on TikTok, there's so many options. All right, y'all, I'm just looking for questions over here. All right, and if you guys are enjoying my live show talking about gardening, please tell your friends to join, invite them to come on over here. And I'm just looking, I can't believe y'all don't have any questions. Sorry, I'm trying to read. It's so hard to read. All right, so no questions over there. All right, so, excuse me. I think that the container question from Brittany is a really good one. As I was planting the cool flowers this past Saturday, so I treat them just like I do out in the garden. You know, I space them the same. Again, it's in a large container. I gave them a deep drink after I planted them, and then I actually gave them also a deep drink of fertilizer, liquid fertilizer. I just watered the pots again using the fertilizer, and then I used our insect netting to actually keep the squirrel varmints out over there. And so I don't know about y'all, but I live where our little city farm is in the middle of what was a pecan orchard. I mean, we're talking 100 years ago, right? But there's still plenty of pecan trees around here. So the squirrels are like losing their minds, burying pecans everywhere. And almost every pecan, you know, I don't know what it's officially called, that green sheath that's on the outside. And then inside there is the nut with the shell on it. Well, they're like in clusters of 4 and 5 this year. I think it's going to be a banner pecan year here in Virginia. But those little crazy squirrels are like losing their minds burying them. And where is the best place to bury? In your pots. So they totally decimated one of my direct seeded beds out here recently. I had firsthand experience. So I planted my cool flowers in the big pots. Then I had a piece of damaged insect netting that an irrigation pipe rubbed and actually ripped a big hole when we had a windstorm. So I took that piece and I cut it up into like 3 foot long. It's 6 foot wide, 3 foot long. And all of my pots out there now have a piece of insect netting on top of it. And I just had it in my hands. Here it is, my friends. I'll show you. This is the best thing since sliced bread. You can find this on my website. If you're in TikTok, you can probably find it in my store there, but if it's not, you can go to my website. And all of you on Instagram, it's in our shop. This is called Flexi, Flexi-tie. We import this from England. And this little tie is stretchy. And the best thing about it is that it holds a knot. You can tie a bow with it and pull it tight and it's not going to move. This is what I put around my pots like a belt and to hold that insect netting down. I just made, and I just put them away, pepper wreaths with my membership club. And this is what I use. In 10 minutes, I use a grapevine wreath with our beautiful rooster peppers. In 10 minutes, I made a wreath. And it's because of this. You tie it to start, you wrap, tie it to end it, and you are done. But this is how I hold the insect netting onto my pots, because this time of the year, the plants aren't going to be growing in height. So the insect netting is, it's a little loose, but it's not high. It's just going to hold those plants there and keep them safe. So I see I have a question. Do you start seed eucalyptus now so they have nice length in the spring? So that's a really great question, because eucalyptus, which, can y'all see it? It's right behind me. Let me turn these cameras. Simultaneous. See my eucalyptus right there? That's 3 different varieties. I grow all 3 of them. You can find all 3 of the varieties in my shop, those that I love to grow. And the thing you need to know about eucalyptus, it's a warm season tender annual in most places. You have to be in U.S. zone 8B, 9A, 9B, or even 10 to winter it over outdoors without protection. I am right on the edge. I'm 8A. And I know that if I leave mine unprotected, it's going to get winter killed, which is what we plan to do sometimes. But it is fairly easy to winter over if you live like in zone 8 with some protection. So the thing about eucalyptus is that it is a slow growing transplant. It is not hard to start from seed. What makes it hard is that it's slow growing. And when something grows slow, do y'all have any idea how many ways you can kill a transplant when it takes 12 weeks to get about this big? That's just the truth. So eucalyptus is the first seed that I start when we come out of Christmas holidays. So, we close a couple weekends, depending on when Christmas is, over the holidays. And then the 1st of January, which I think this year is like January 4th or 3rd or something, is that Monday. That's when I come back out here to the workshop. And that's the first seed that I start, is eucalyptus. And I usually get germination, and I grow 3 varieties: Parvula gum, Polyanthemus, and Silver Dollar. And I start all 3, and we get fairly good germination. It takes about 7 to 14 days, depending on your conditions. Eucalyptus is native to Australia, y'all. It is hot down there. You definitely need some warmth, definitely a seedling heat mat, and warm air temperatures to get eucalyptus to pop. Here's the challenge with starting eucalyptus at that time of the year, is that I am also down on starting all of my cool season hardy annuals that are going to be planted in very early spring, which for me is mid-February. And so they don't like it so warm. So you have to sometimes segregate your seed starting areas when you're needing to start this warm season slow grower, but you've got a bunch of cool season stuff you want to start. I can almost promise you, if you try to grow them together, you might be able to get them to start and grow, but the warm season is going to grow super slow if it's too cool, and the cool stuff is going to be sluggish if it's too warm. So you might as well make that plan right now if you are going to start eucalyptus from seed, which I find it totally doable. So I started in the small soil block, the 3/4 inch block, which you can find that on my shops. It's 3/4 inch block, and when it's about 3 weeks old, when it's about a 1/2 inch tall, I then bump it up to the 2-inch block, which I do not do that really with any other flower. Eucalyptus is the diva that I do that for, right? And it's because it's going to take her about 10 more weeks to get about that big. It's just too long for her to be in that little block. And it grows an amazing transplant. Then when our planting time comes, which is right there at your last frost in spring, and remember, eucalyptus likes it warm. If you plant it out there and it's too cold, you're going to shock her and she's just going to shiver and, pout and not grow as well if you'd have just waited until it was warmer to plant it, right? So I'm looking to have a transplant about this big to plant out in my garden so that I can get a great start. And then where do you plant them? Full blasting sun. That is 12 to 16 hours a day, or however many hours we get in the long days of summer, the maximum. And because the first year growth it can be really good. I mean, our eucalyptus was over my head, and it was just planted this last April. And we are gonna try to winter it over. And so that just means that next year, it'll be so far ahead, it's already established. It'll grow taller, it'll have more stems, it'll have longer stems.